and 2 and 1. Welcome, everyone. If you're just arriving, say something in the chat. Tell us where you're coming from. I am coming to you live all the way from Boston, and my guest, who is here all the way from the big island of Hawaii, I'm super excited because today we are confronting one of the big elephants in the room for all of us who have been in the past putting on live events or workshops or retreats or meetups or networking events or any kind of gathering when in the olden days, in the time before social distancing, this was the common experience. And now the question is like, what do? Do you cancel everything? Do you decide to do virtual events? And if you are going to do a virtual event, how do you replace anything like the kind of energy and excitement and connection and engagement that you can get from an in-person real life experience? How do you do any of that stuff virtually? So today, my guest, Leif Hansen, who is an expert at this kind of thing. He's been doing this thing for several years now called Spark Interaction. And now he's doing Spark Life workshops. And he has been taking people into the virtual space. He's gone through his own transition of doing things in the real world to doing them virtually. And he's been helping people, and he's going to help us today figure out, well, how do we do this? How do we do stuff virtually that has any kind of level of engagement that is anything like what we might be able to do in real time? And by way of introducing him, I am going to share a video that he has that just give you guys a little sample of the kind of work he does. And then I'm going to bring him on and we're going to explore. Now, if you're here, I want to see you in the chat. And as we're talking, this wants to be a conversation. So ask your questions. This is your chance to engage with us today and figure out like, okay, so I'm doing this thing. How do I do it? All right, so hang on just a second. I'm going to put this video on and this right here, go over here and hook it up.
And they're like,
So Ricky, you're gonna mirror it now. Great. And give us 3 words to describe your feelings, your name, and where you're from. I want you to imagine that, go ahead and like you're squeezing the hand of the person next to you. Like, okay? This is attachment. It would not feel good if the person was painfully squeezing and holding on to you, right?
I am really trying to give myself space to cry. And I don't know exactly what it takes for me, but I just feel like it's there, and it's like, come on. And they're like, okay, it's okay. That's just what it is right now.
All right, and we're back. So welcome to the show, Leif. Really great to have you here.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here, Brad. It was fun to see that clip. Actually, hadn't seen that clip for some time. So that's from the Sweet Spot, which is just a free donation-based weekly, starting January weekly gathering. It's actually been bi-monthly right now, but just a global gathering for people to come together, connect, and play.
Yeah, cool. So I just want to pause for a second because your background is so cool. Can you just share just a little bit about where you are and
Sure.
Even like, what are you doing down there?
Yeah, it's not a fake background. It's a real background here in Hawaii. So I'm fulfilling a dream that I have had for many years to get out of the Pacific Northwest for the winter. And I'm on the big island of Hawaii on what some people call the wet side, kind of the Hilo side. I'm down in the Pahoa area. And a friend of a friend graciously is letting me use their higher speed internet for predictability and stability, because internet's been a little bit hard on the island for me to do my work. I've been at a co-working space partly in Hilo, but yeah, so that's the background that you're seeing. I'm staying out here. I was joking with Brad and saying that, well, this is a little bit vulnerable to say, but I'm staying at a place that is an Airbnb that is a nudist place, and the beach that's nearby is nudist. And so I've spent more time naked in the last 2 weeks of my life than I have probably in my whole life, which has been pretty funny.
That's too great.
There it is. But we thought, probably not a good idea for the interview today, right? There's
Right,
one thing
sure.
about being transparent, and then there's oversharing.
That's right. Okay, well, we got a few people on. If you're here, tell us where you are calling in from, because I'm in like the land of cold and ice, which is Boston, and we're just like literally the polar opposite of the big island of Hawaii. And I want to see, like, where are you, like, anywhere in between? I'm just gazing at the chat for a second. Okay, and before we dive into this topic, so if you're just joining, we're going to talk about this whole thing of how do you create any kind of gathering, like this gathering we're doing right now. If you're hosting a virtual event of any kind, how do you keep it engaging? How do you do anything, so that you're not death by Zoom or death by PowerPoint slides or anything like that? Because a lot of folks have been, moving like in this transition of taking, like, okay, so I did this stuff in real life. I'm just going to transpose it into the virtual world and see if it'll work. And I know that, like, for my daughter who is suffering through virtual high school right now, bless their hearts, the public education system is doing the best job that they can think of doing, but simply by taking the classroom and trying to make it work on a screen just doesn't work very well. And so it's a time of innovation. It's a time for all of us to sort of put our best ideas together and see how we can do this. So we've got Linda all the way from Melbourne, Australia. Oh, no, wait, this is Gina from sunny Florida. I just hit the wrong one. Hey, Gina. Linda's from Melbourne. This is like, you are up early or late in Australia right now. The time in Australia must be like really early in the morning is all I can think of. And Wendy is here from Phoenix. Awesome. Look at that. So we have some really good representation here.
And the Set Free Lab from Loveland, Colorado, looks like.
Oh, okay, cool. Loveland, Colorado. Excellent. So, and just as we dive into this, first thing I would need to do is acknowledge the fact that this show, this whole presentation, is sponsored by our dear friends at Restream. And Restream is part of the reason for us even being able to do this. I've been doing live streaming now for, gosh, I don't know, at least 10 years. I was doing live streaming before Facebook even had live video and before YouTube had live video. And I was working with musicians and helping them go live. And if only we had had a tool like Restream at that time, I can't imagine what we would have been able to do, because what this tool allows us to do, allows you to do, is you can stream onto any platform that you choose. There's over 30 platforms to choose from. So right now, we are going live onto LinkedIn, we're going live onto YouTube, we're going live onto Facebook, and we're going live onto Twitter, and we're going onto multiple pages on those different sites. So for instance, for me on Facebook, I have my profile page, I have my business page, I have my private group page, and this stream is appearing on all three of those pages simultaneously.
Wow.
And the cool thing is that, for something that you're doing, like when you're wanting to host your next engaging live event, you can use a tool like Restream and you can schedule it in advance. And then you can tell everybody, hey, come over here. This is where it's going to be. And they can join you. And not only can they join you, but they can join you on the platform that they like to be on. So if they're really diehard LinkedIn fans, they can join you on LinkedIn, and your LinkedIn crowd can have its own little thing going. And they can be joined together with all of your friends who like to hang out over on YouTube. So There's my thing. And if you're interested in joining Restream yourself, let me just put up this little caption here. There it is. You can go to this URL and you can sign up for free. And if you ever upgrade by using this link, you'll get a discount if you ever get into their professional program. So it's restream.io/join/showup. All right. So my first question for you is basically, I would like to just have you describe a little bit of your own trials and tribulations, because I know that you were doing lots of live in-person events, and all of a sudden, like 8 months ago, that was no longer possible. So let's just share a little bit of that journey, because we've all been there. We've all been through going through the same kind of thing. But in your case, you were sort of like, "Gosh, I really love interaction. Now what?"
Yeah, it's I do a mixture of personal retreats and professional workshops and corporate trainings, and mostly I would say 90% of those got canceled. And I imagine many of you were like that as well. I was like, thankfully I have both a high touch and high tech background, and I had been doing Zoom meetings already. And so a number of my peers from one of my professional networks, the Applied Improvisation Network, were like, "What do we do?" And so I put together a intensive training series called Facilitating Engaging Online Events. And it just slowly evolved from, at first, sort of focusing on the technology side with Zoom. How do you do that? That was sort of the big platform everyone was using, of course. And then it was like, well, what about event design and activities to really keep people engaged? And so I ended up creating 2 different 3-hour intensives that just basically taught people a bunch of different activities for grounding, centering, arriving, getting people connected, melting ice, like really deepening the connection, ideation. And so that went really well for about 3 months. And one of my weak points is my own marketing skills. And so I sort of tapped out my network. And I also was just doing these events so much that right now those are on pause. And I do them only for existing groups. Like yesterday, I did one for about 40 people from the city of Seattle for their HR department of like, okay, here's how we're going to make our events more interesting. So that's sort of my pivot. Obviously other offers coming up, but that's sort of that particular point in history.
Yeah, cool. So, well, when you are approaching, like if I'm thinking about hosting an event, which I am thinking about hosting an event, and if I'm thinking about it, is there a process? Is there a, format of like, well, I need to think about what am I going to do when people show up? And I'm going to think about how do I get people over the hump of being comfortable in the group and so on. And I'm just sort of guessing at this, but can you explain a little bit of the process that you share with people?
Yeah, we didn't talk about this, but I don't know if I have the ability to share a screen, but I can just talk through it. Also, I put together sort of 10 top points that I have. I call How to Wow, and it's that process of being able to consider, who is your audience? How do you prime the pump? How do you get them curious and ready and willing to be open to this offer? Sort of a mixture of how do you prepare your content for that particular platform, but not over prepare, because this is an age where we really need to learn how to improvise and adapt. You have potential technology issues. There's so many weird things happening in the world right now, the energy of people, the needs of people. So it's really about teaching people how to stay emergent to what comes up. At least that's my style, to not be too fixed. It's a lot about connecting to yourself, so that you're really in integrity, in alignment with your values in an authentic place, and people can feel that connection. You're not just talking at them, you're being responsive. How do you create a safe enough container, which is things like coming up with some agreements, and one simple new agreement that's important to do in your workshops is to say, hey, can we all agree to turn off our devices? Because we can't see each other. And like in the background, you might be multitasking and sending texts. And So sort of making that agreement to really be present to the engagement that's happening right here can be helpful. Is this the kind of thing that you were asking that you'd like to know a bit more about? I can say a few more points, or am I not hitting what you were talking about?
No, exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah, I mean, if there are 10 things, we could go through all 10 of them. Whatever you want to do. And just a second, before you do, I'm just getting a question here. Let's see, I have to read his name. Raymond is asking, can we put the link up again? I say, yes, sure. So sorry for the interruption. Let me just pop that on here. Here's where it is. Da-da-da. So you can go to Restream.
Nice.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, go ahead and share away. This sounds great. I mean, I love just the beginning of like getting the agreement. It's like, what can we agree on? That's just how many people do that at all when they get on Zoom with a bunch of strangers or whatever? It's like, okay, we need to make some agreements here.
Totally. And since this is happening really fast and a shorter interview, I'm happy to send a free PDF to people and a little video that explains this stuff today. I think the website for that is zoomtraining.live. Okay. And then I'll just send you, an introductory video and a PDF with these points. But, it's a lot about thinking about how people have different modalities for their learning styles. And is there a kinesthetic element, audio? Is there some personal reflection time? Is there group interaction? Really sort of creating a rhythm. So it's not all intense and it's not all introspective, but like different kinds of energy. It's also really important to be thinking about the sustaining the learning and the connection beyond the event. We can do these big wow events and then people just quickly forget what was learned. We're exposed to so many videos and so many opportunities and podcasts and this and that, blog posts, that what we seem to be lacking in is the depth. We're really good. I call the internet flatland. We're really good in this two-dimensional space at exploring flatland and lots of information. But in terms of the depth, the three-dimensional digesting, integrating information, embodying the information, living it out, what I call playformation, transformation through play, not just information, that takes more work. And things you can do for people is to create community around the learning, follow up classes, accountability buddies, learning groups, practice session. So what are all the things that you can do to deepen the experiences that you're giving people? So those are maybe 5 or 6 or 7 of the points from the top 10 wow factors that I say. And in terms of the actual event design, the simplest thing, I'll give 2 what I think are the best tips. One is write a dream testimonial. So imagine it's the day after or a week after the event that you're doing. You wake up in the morning, you open your email, and there's this letter from someone that's like, "Dear Brad, your podcast, it's like your event was like so great. It impacted me in this way. I then went and did this. So like, what is the dream impact that you're wanting to have?" So then you have that vision. And the next step is about reverse engineering that vision. Okay, so if I want to have that impact, what experiences and content and engagement am I going to have with people to get there? And in order to do that, what's the best platform going to be that's going to allow for that kind of capacity? Like a lot of people obviously like the Zoom breakout rooms because they allow for some increased intimacy and interactivity. Or maybe you're trying to just reach a lot of people and something like Restream seems like it would be amazing to get your message out to so many people. So there's a few little ideas.
That's so great. Yeah, I love this stuff. I mean, it just sort of takes, I love just simply the concept of calling the internet world flatland. It's just like, yes, of course, it is sort of flat. I mean, it's completely flat. And how can we go deeper? How can we go deeper in so many different ways, And this is the thing where I see this so commonly where people are presenting, and just the simple mistake that I see most often is that people use this medium and they see it as broadcasting. And which is just completely one way. It's like, okay, I'm here to tell you something. And so they're spending all their time talking not to or with, but at whoever might be there. And this is like it. Like I'm here, I have information, I'm going to download it.
Yes.
Here
Just
you go.
download the brains, and it comes a little bit from, to get philosophical for a second, I think it comes from our Western left brain kind of Cartesian, I think, therefore I am, concept of what it means to be a human, like a machine that you could just download information. But what we find, of course, is that doesn't work. We are not just brains. We are hearts. We are bodies. We are, whatever you think of spirit or consciousness. We're relational, social beings. So if your learning opportunities don't include the whole person, then they're going to really be short-lived. They're going to be forgotten within minutes or hours or days. And so, that's why I kind of am a little bit of an evangelist for my term Playformation. It's like when we were kids, that's what we did. Hey, do you want to be, I'm going to pretend that I'm a cop and you be the robber. And let's enter that reality and really experience it. And anything's possible. And we make up games. And unfortunately, as we were growing up, we got hurt. We got made fun of, we got criticized, our teachers, our parents, our peers, and we got this sort of crusted ego, this sort of fear wall, and it made us, this sort of ice that came out made us put ourselves in these little boxes of, okay, when I'm in the professional world, I have to have this professional ism, and dress and look and act and talk this way. When I'm at church, I'm like this. When I'm with my friends, I'm like this, and it robbed us of that sort of natural, authentic, free, playful self that really learns and from an intrinsic way rather than an extrinsic, fear-based, people-pleasing way. So, wow, I'm sure going off on this topic right now, but yes,
No, I love that. I mean,
I'm passionate about that.
That really resonates with me. I mean, I remember clearly when I was young, all the kids in the neighborhood would come over. We had an attic, and up in the attic, there was a trunk. And in the trunk was a bunch of old clothes that I'm not sure where they all came from, but they were like adult clothing. And I remember the whole thing was like, oh, let's put on a show. And we'd literally pull stuff out of the trunk and say, okay, you're going to wear this and you're going to be this character, and I'm going to wear this and I'm going to be this character. And then we would create an entire production, and then we would go downstairs and do it in front of the adults. and,
Nice.
and that, like when I think about how everyone gets so hung up to get in front of the camera and to do something like what we're doing now, like do a live stream, and people are so like held back and, oh my gosh, I don't think I can do this. I don't know what I'm going to say. I'm going to look like an idiot. People will judge me. They'll criticize me, et cetera, et cetera. And to me, it's like, well, if you can somehow rekindle that thing of, well, let's just put on a show. Like, let's just do something fun here that, and you get to be what you want to be. You get to do what you want to do. It's that simple.
Yes, it is. It's simple, and it can be hard because there is so much, from a psycho, spiritual, transpersonal perspective. There's trauma, there's fear, and so one of the reasons that my workshops are so much about bringing people into playing some silly games, and using the skill set from the world of applied improvisation is that it connects us back to our humanness. When we don't take ourselves too seriously, humor, we humble ourselves, another hum word, notice the pattern here, connecting us to our humanness and sort of to grounding us in the earth, the humus. So I like to say, remember the hum. Just when you're getting all up in your head or you're taking yourself too seriously, just remember the hum, laugh at yourself, humble yourself, bring yourself back into your common humanity, and so much more juicy things can actually happen. And so, and probably a lot of your audience is wondering, well, like, how do we do that though in a virtual world? You talk about being embodied and all that, and that's great to do when you're in a live setting, but can you do it here? Yes, you can. I still definitely give preference to the live meetings, but you can really remind people they have a body. You can remind people to take a pause and feel their heart, You can give opportunities for meaningful questions and interactions between people, sharing in a vulnerable, heart-led level. And there are plenty of games and activities that help facilitate that kind of connection. And that's basically what I teach in those sessions. But anyone could,
That's so great. Well, we got a couple comments here.
Oh, yeah.
Paul is saying, I like your perspective on the involving the viewers in the experience. So good. I know in my live streams, I try to pull the audience in as well, ask questions, etc.
Excellent.
And then Chris is saying, he's making reference to the dream testimonial process. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, that one is by far, I would say, particularly with my coaching clients, it's one of their favorite things to do, because it really does bring you to the vision that you're trying to, move towards.
Right. Yeah. All right. So where, I know that you are now working on something that you're calling the Spark Life workshops.
Yeah, the Spark Life Collective. Yeah.
Collective. Okay. So tell us a little bit about that. Like where is that going? What's going to happen there?
Sure. So partly because of the pandemic and people being in front of a screen a lot more, partly because I wanted to have a gathering space of people that I love and that are interested in my work. And partly, actually, there's a few different motives. Another one was, those of us that lead events, and we tend to have an income that goes, sort of like you're trying to like fill an event, get a training and a contract. So I wanted to have some recurring income. So I've created a membership site called the Spark Life Collective, and it is a goal-based membership site. That I landed on was, who are the kinds of people I want to attract? And the 5 goals are meaningful work, enriching relationships, lifelong learning, courageous creativity, and deep well-being. And the way I did it was like, what kind of community would I want to join? I want to join one where people are focused on a whole life, a balanced life, a rich life. And I was like, well, what are the goals? And those were the 5 goals. So the site has sort of 2 main tracks, one that's focused on people who are more on the personal development side, and one for the professional development side. It offers a 2-week free membership, but it's a collective. The reason I'm calling it a collective is it's a collection of people, heart-led leaders, mostly facilitators, creative catalysts, change makers. It's a collection of courses. It's a collection of discussion circles and a lot of live events. So for example, this week, there was a drop-in coaching session. There's a creative co-working time. There's an open mic. There's a co-working time right after this call, actually, very soon. There's a practice session for people who are facilitators and teachers to come on and practice leading classes and activities together. So it's a place to really just bring together. It's like a professional, personal development, social networking kind of a hub. And it's been hard for me to figure out how to communicate it. And collective is the word right now, but could call it an academy. We'll see how it evolves. Right now, it's in the soft launch stage, and then in the new year is sort of I'll be more officially getting it out there.
That's cool. So okay. So when you're doing an open mic, what does the open mic part look like?
The open mic is super fun. It's just like you would imagine an open mic, and actually it works really well in a Zoom type space, because you just have people, either sign up in advance or in the beginning of the session say they want to do something, and then I'll highlight them, spotlight them, and it might be poetry, it might be song, it might be spoken word, it might be who knows what, but it's just an open mic space. But it's been really fun to experiment with those sort of social and professional gatherings, including I actually did a speed dating co-led one time that was, I thought it was going to be like really, well, it was a risk and people loved it. As a matter of fact, I would say out of the 25 people that showed up, 20 of them say that they made a connection that they're probably going to follow up on. So I was like, wow, maybe we should do this again. Yeah, so that's been really fun.
Wendy says, I like club.
Club. Yeah, I thought about club, Spark Life Club. The problem with club for me was it felt a little too informal, a little too like, I don't know, but club's good too. I like it. we'll think about that.
Right. Yeah. And I really like the session that you're talking about that is later today, where people are going to practice leading and teaching each other. That sounds like super useful.
Yes. Yeah. I think a lot of us are just needing that chance to have a safe space before we, do out in the big scary world. We actually get a chance to like practice a game or an activity or a presentation.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, if people are like, if we have some heart-centered people who are on this stream right now and they want to check this out, where do they go?
They go to thesparklife.org. And if you go there, it currently will let you choose, like I said, either it's both of them. I just ended yesterday a free 1-month membership. So the first 30 people that joined. And then now it's a 2-week free membership. And you can kind of just check out the events that are going on. I do most of my events the 2nd and 4th week of each month. So people are you're going to have to come for that last sort of awkward Christmas time, but it'll be a good chance to come in and meet some people and join some of the discussions. And then there's also going to be some courses in the new year that are completely separate, but you can have them as add-ons. And they include some book studies, a Playformation group, which is just people who are wanting to learn the art of applied improvisation and how it can help them test drive their own future. And we do some role plays, some goal plays, some connecting and playing together. So if you're interested in that, probably the best thing to do to get to know me and meet some really cool people is to come to the Sweet Spot. You saw the first 1-minute introduction to that. And that's just a free in January. Every week this month, it's still on a 2nd and 4th Tuesday of each month, 9 a.m. Pacific. But if you go to, I believe it's thesweetspot.live, it'll help you sign up for the Zoom event. And we just have a great time there. Trust me, you guys will love it. Low risk. I make it really safe, and just a really great people from around the world.
Awesome. thesweetspot.live.
Yes, I know. I should probably learn better my actual URLs before. Yes, but that is correct. I'm typing it in now. Good.
Okay, awesome, great. So this is fantastic. Thanks everyone for joining. This is killer good. I'm just going to thank Leif for joining us today. Is there any takeaway that you want to share with folks who are here now or even in the replay future around, playfulness, interactivity, etc.?
Yeah, I would say, well, first of all, definitely download that free hour video because it will say much more than I can say in this last little thing here, the one that's at zoomtraining.live. But let's see, 3 quick points. 1, play, whether it's with the technology, with the people, with yourself, but get yourself back to that childlike state of wonder and experimentation. You'll have joy. It'll be good for other people. You'll learn faster. It sticks deeper. So really find ways to do that. The second is get support, create support, get support. Whether that's a coach, a coaching group, working with me, a class, finding a friend or a peer. You don't have to do it alone. Find the courage to reach out and get the support that you need to move things forward. You really don't have to do things alone. It's always amazing to me how often people think they have to be that sort of Western mindset Lone Ranger that's going to figure this shit all out by themselves, Get support. And the third thing, remember the hum. Remember the hum. Don't take yourself too seriously. Humble, humility, humor, humanness. Yeah.
Right. All those 3 things, and spend the winter on the big island in Hawaii.
Yeah. And then you'll see this kind of a scene.
Oh, that's so great.
That little flight of birds take off right as I did that. That was hilarious. All right. Thanks so much, Brad. And thanks to all of you for coming in. I look forward to meeting some of you on the Sweet Spot or at Spark Life Collective.
Right. Well, thank you again, Leif, and everyone else. We will see you next time. This show goes live every Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Next week, I've got a special guest coming in. We're going to do a case study of someone who has taken their live event and turned it into a weekly show video podcast production collaborating with several other people, and has become a real authority in their industry as a result of doing this. And they've only been doing it since the spring, since the time of closing down. And as a result, her business has grown. It's a really fascinating story. I'm going to really explore with her sort of the brass tacks of how did she do it? What did it take? How hard was it? What was the up? What was the down? So if you're interested in any kind of looking at, okay, how could I do this for myself? This will be a great episode to tune into next Thursday at 3 o'clock. And until then, see you next time.